Hello, friends. Welcome back to our discussion on unseen passages. Our title is Unseen Made Seen. This is primarily meant for CBSE Class 10 students, but also useful anyone who is taking up any type of competitive examinations. So here we go. Have a nice time enjoying my class. Well, my dear friends, this is passage number 9. Read the following passage carefully. Paragraph 1. Around 194 million birds and 29 million mammals are thought to be killed every year on European roads, according to a new study that has ranked the most vulnerable species. So, from the opening sentence, you understand that this is about killing of animals and birds on the roads. Well, while the roads are built, or when there is traffic, and especially heavy traffic. So around 194 million birds and 29 million mammals are thought to be killed every year. That's the thing. From where they got this idea? A new study. The new study, they made a list, a rank list that has ranked the most vulnerable species. Vulnerable species means species or animals and birds and mammals which which are in high risk of being killed on roads while the roads are being built or while there is heavy traffic. So ranked means here this means the list, a rank or a list according to the most one or the more vulnerable, most vulnerable, more vulnerable, vulnerable, less vulnerable, like that. Vulnerable means those are at risk. The research has found that the species killed most often were not necessarily the most endangered species. So, endangered species means that is facing species that faces um, yeah, extinction, so to say. Say, for example, the dinosaurs already extinct. So there are such, or the anaconda. It is said that it's an endangered species. Now we can see wildlife protection. Why? Because tigers and other animals which face a possible risk of being killed or being hunted by humans. Now they have to be protected. So they are actually those species, animals, mammals, and also birds, which are which are going to become extinct because of human invasion. So in this, that is what is meant by endangered species. Now, what happens here is that that sentence you see, the research has found that species killed most often were not necessarily the most endangered species. That's the thing. That's a very important point to note because this is about endangered species versus species or high risk species or most vulnerable species. So in the case of in the list that is made of vulnerable species, you what do you find is that they are necessarily the most has found that the species killed the killed or the animals or mammals who face road accidents and killed or killed on the road killed, you can say, they are not the most endangered, but in the list that is not mentioned. That's the thing. So the research has found that the species killed most often were not necessarily the most endangered species. Means the species at which are most vulnerable, they are not found in the list. In the list, what you find is only the endangered species. This means action to preserve wildlife when new roads are built risks being targeted at the wrong species based on current methods. So, in the current ranking, what happens is that The rank list advises that you should protect or protection program should be directed only to or mostly to endangered species. On the other hand, species at high risk, they are not given much importance in the rank list of vulnerable species. Road densities in Europe are among the world's highest, with 50% of the continent within 15 km of a paved road or railway railway. So that's what we find. So in Europe, high density of roads. That means many roads. Even within 15 kilometers from any point in Europe, if you move from any point to a place, you will find that there is either a road or a railway within 15 kilometers. Or you are within 15 kilometers of reach. There is either a road or a railway. Roads are therefore a significant threat to wildlife. Why? For one thing, many roads are built. Secondly, 50% of the continent there is you find roads. Either you will find roads, crisscross of roads or railways. So the significant threat, and and almost every day they are building roads or railways. So new roads and new railways, part of their infrastructure they are making. So a significant threat to wildlife, and evidence shows deaths on them could even cause some species to disappear completely. Disappear means some species they are endangered. They are going to become extinct. Why? Because of the roads. Road kill means being killed on the roads. Also, while roads are built or railways are built. But the point here you can see what is negative about this is protection programs are directed towards or targeted towards only endangered species and not species at risk. So the first paragraph brings before us a two group, you can say a division. There is a two groups. One group is endangered group, the other group is group at high risk. Now the protection programs are directed or targeted to protect the endangered species and not the high risk or highly vulnerable see the vulnerable species or the most vulnerable species. Paragraph 2, I think you understand the point. See, for example, you have got the two groups. They make the research or the people who are trying to protect the species. They are according to them there are two groups. One endangered species, the other is species at high risk. So the protection programs are directed or aimed at only to the endangered species and not at the high risk species. Paragraph 2. Despite this, the long term protection of species is not currently considered when assessing the impact of new roads on wildlife, meaning we risk giving support to only the endangered species. That's what I said. When new roads are built or where we find very high densities of roads and traffic and so on, there the attention is directed towards endangered species only, not the species which are facing high risk, doing nothing to help those at risk. A better understanding of which species are most vulnerable to rods is therefore important if we are to take a more effective action of protection. So if you want to take now what happens is that the action of protection is only or mainly meant for endangered species and not species at high risk. That is the problem. That is the point. That is the negative aspect of protection programs. And paragraph 3, A research team based on Lisbon calculated roadkill rates for 423 bird species and 212 mammal species. They found that small animals with high population densities, say squirrels, for example, or mongoose, and so on, no, and which mature at an early age, were most likely to be killed on roads. So, animals or birds which are most likely to be killed on roads are not the endangered species, but the small animals which has got a population density and so on. Nocturnal birds, birds that move about at night. Nocturnal means nightly. Nocturnal birds and mammals and birds with a diet of plants and seeds were also shown to have higher death rates. So higher death rates actually affects not to the endangered species but to these small animals, birds with a high population densities, and also with mature at an early age. So that is the point. So actually, protection programs should be directed more towards or that to take care of this high risk group and not the endangered group. Four, the study also used the roadkill surveys to rank the bird and mammal species whose long term survival was most threatened by roadkill. The hazel grouse and ground squirrel were found to be the most at risk of local extinction. Not, not, not a kind of global extinction, but a local extinction. These are small animals, you know. So both are common in Europe, but classified as species of least concern, list of threatened species. So all the time, the author was saying the same thing. That is, actions or protection programs are meant only for endangered species and not species who which face, so to say, very high risk of being killed on roads. That's and two examples he has given. One is the hazel grouse, and the other is the ground squirrel. They are going to face local extinction. Still, these people who are doing research and making rank list of species who are at risk and so on, they are these these small animals they are not found in the list. And the fifth one, the most vulnerable animals classified as threatened by International Union for Conservation of Nature, that is IUCN, were the red-knobbed coot, Balkan mole, and Podolian mole. The study revealed the roadkill hotspots. What is roadkill hotspots mean? That means the place where these animals, mammals, birds, they meet with their death because of either because of traffic, this busy traffic, or because of the building of new roads. So kill hotspots were not the, or we can say hotspot means the place where there's most dangerous spots, so to say. The hotspot means the most dangerous spots where there is liability of animals to be killed on roads. So, roadkill hotspots were not the areas with the highest population of endangered species. So, here also the author says that in the hotspots, the when you are determining a hotspots, there also it's not a question of endangered species which are being killed. For example, house sparrows had a high roadkill rate, 2.7% per km per year, but ranked only 420th of bird species for vulnerability. It should be ranked say fifth or second or 10th or something like that. Instead of that, they are ranked only 420th of bird species for vulnerability. Conversely, the hazel grouse had a low predicted roadkill rate, 0.2% per km or a kilometer or year, but was the most vulnerable of all bird studies. So, throughout the passage, what the author is trying to tell is when you are making a rank list of uh, high risk or the animals, birds, or mammals, and so on, which face risk or vulnerable, which are vulnerable, so to say, they are not the endangered species, but other animals, mammals, and so on. Like, say, we have already seen birds, and also most likely to be killed population densities, and which nature mature at an early age were most likely to be killed on roads. So these are the types of or species that face what we say even local extinction, but they are not being considered. They are not given proper consideration. They are not given proper. They are proper protection actions are not taken to protect these. On the other hand, what the people who are doing research and making studies and so on, what are they doing is their attention is always towards species that face extinction or going to face extinction or what you call endangered species. So that is the main theme of this passage. Now let's say questions and answers. Answer the following questions based on the passage above. 1A. Complete the following analogy appropriately. A comparison. Analogy means comparison. Based on your understanding of the passage, we can say that high road densities have had a long ranging impact on some of the animal species being driven to extinction. This situation can be compared to the cutting down of forests by humans for building up modern infrastructure and its long term effect on extinction of trees and environment. Understand that? Extinction of trees and environment or ecosystem, deforestation, and so on. Okay, B. Fill in the blanks with appropriate option from those given in brackets based on your understanding of paragraph 1. The statement recent research has found that the species killed most often on European roads were not necessarily the endangered species, but roads can ironically cause some species to disappear completely is a fact because it is it is an objective detail based on evidence collected. So that's what the author says throughout the passage. See, the vulnerability of an animal dying in a road accident is often not an important factor to determine its being threatened by IUCN. Justify the following in about 30 to 40 words. So you have the answer to that in you can see here we have seen now that is question C. So we have the answer here. Question C. We risk giving support to only the endangered species, doing nothing to help those at risk. A better understanding of which species are most vulnerable to rods is therefore important if we are to take a more effective action of protection. And then he continue that they found that small animals with high population densities and which mature at the early age were most likely to be killed on roads. Nocturnal birds and mammals and birds with a diet of plants and seeds were also shown to have higher death rates. So that would be the answer to question C. And now here we come to question D. Based on the results of the study, which two factors primarily contribute to the threatening of wildlife? One, raw densities. Two, conservation efforts targeted at the wrong species. So all the conservation efforts are being targeted at endangered species and not the species at high risk. That is that's what we find to contribute threatening of killing of birds. Two reasons. E. The long term protection of species is not currently considered when assessing the impact of new roads on wildlife, meaning we risk giving support to only the endangered species, doing nothing to help those most at risk. State any one inference that can be drawn from the above statement. Small animals and nocturnal birds and mammals should be included in the hit list and conservation efforts directed to them. So that is the inference, or that is the conclusion. Inference here means conclusion that we are arriving at. Small animals and nocturnal birds and mammals should be included, and also conservation efforts should be directed to them. Okay. F. Select the option that correctly displays hotspot significant reference paragraph 2. Well, that is, there are the four images, but the images are not printed here. The second image is the correct one. Spot where highest possibility of rod kills. So that is the hotspot. And G, infer an astounding conclusion drawn by a number of roadkill surveys. Answer in about 30 to 40 words. Well, the answer is paragraph 4. You have the paragraph 4, you have the answer. You can rewrite that in your own words. Paragraph 4 G. The study also used the roadkill surveys to rank the bird and animal species whose long-term survival was most threatened by roadkill. The hazel grouse and the ground squirrel were found to be the most at risk of local extinction. Both are common in Europe but classified as species of least concern, list of threatened species. And the roadkill hotspots were not the areas with the highest population of endangered species. So there you have the answer, but you have to write this answer in your own words, taking help from this part of the passage. Okay. D, and then you have got the last question H. Which of the following given points is the correct statement? Well, correct statement is 3. The number of roadkills depends upon the population density of small animals. Okay, my dear friends, bye for the time being. Till we meet again, have a nice time, enjoy your life, and tell your friends also to go through this passage. And if you are satisfied with this my explanation and so on, then you should tell your friends, and you also like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.